Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Cinegeeks podcast. I'm Roy.
And I'm Angela.
And for this episode, we will be doing a deep dive into not just one of the best Star Wars shows, pero one of the best TV shows ever.
Yes, ever.
Yes, and that's Andor, starring Diego Luna, Stellan Skarsgård, sino ba? Adria Arjona.
Adria Arjona.
Arjona pala yun. Of course, sila Kyle Soller, Denise Gough. I know I'm forgetting a lot of other people. Pero yan, these are fantastic actors.
Yes.
And
all of them.
Yeah, we will get to them.
Varada Seisu.
Dami pa. Faye Marseille.
Faye Marseille.
Yan. Yeah, we will get to them maya-maya konti. Pero before we continue, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and share this video with your friends. Okay,
Alright.
so
Let's get started.
Yes.
So excited to talk about this, one of my favorite TV shows of all time. It's up
Yes.
there.
sobrang iba yung energy na dinala nitong palabas na to sa Star Wars universe.
Especially as a Rogue One fan. And
Yes.
Rogue One talaga yung pinaka-favorite ko na Star Wars movie.
True. And piggybacking off of that, Rogue One, I mean, this has been said a lot of times in the
Yeah.
past na it's the most grounded, the grittiest, and the most mature,
Most emotional.
most emotional. One of the most. Kasi may emotion naman yung iba. Pero, yeah, you're right. One of the most emotional Star Wars properties.
Ito lang yung nakapagpahagulgul sa akin.
Well, sa palagay ko kung bakit is because mas nakatutok yung kwento ng Rogue One and by extension Andor doon sa yung human cost of
War.
fighting back against this monolithic evil.
Yes.
Kasi dati, yung mga Star Wars, well, at least yung mainline Star Wars na kwento, ano siya para siyang masyadong fairy tale. And this is not a knock
Yes.
on Star Wars,
Oo.
Kasi ang kwento ng Star Wars mainline is the Skywalkers.
Oo.
Tapos yung mga Jedi.
Yes. And mga Sith.
Yan. So, parang masyado siyang hindi in touch sa reality nung mga pwedeng nakatira within the galaxy experiencing the yoke of oppression by the Empire.
Mas mas real world.
True.
Yung pakiramdam ng world ni Andor.
Oo.
Kaya parang mas siya, mas close to home.
Yes. Talagang ini-emphasize niya yung toll on the citizens na kung gaano hindi man, ayoko sabihin na yung talagang outright na nilalapastangan na parang yung cartoonish villain. Pero parang isa sa mga sobrang scary, eerie even na mga bagay while watching this series, is how real world, our reality, this feels na kung parang
Philippine politics even, di ba?
Parang Philippine politics, kahit yung worldwide, yung sa mundo. Pag may gusto yung isang big entity, ayoko nang sabihin government or company, whatever na lang, may big entity na may gusto sa isang lugar na yan, it will stop at nothing to parang drive out the people who rightfully live there.
Yung mga displacement, gentrification, at saka yung pag-abuse ng mga resources, natural resources, parang even here, sa sarili nating bansa, nakikita natin yan.
True.
So, yes, you were right in saying na sobrang eerily real ng mga issues na tinatakal dito sa Andor.
True. And that is credit to the fantastic writing by Tony Gilroy and his team of writers for the show.
Super galing talaga.
By the way, I mean, the hardcore Star Wars fans know this. Si Tony Gilroy actually yung nag-rescue, kumbaga, nung Rogue One. Back when it was in production.
Gareth Edwards?
Si Gareth Edwards yung credited director. Pero nung pinalabas siya sa Disney upper management and Lucasfilm management, hindi niya nagustuhan yung take niya. So, Tony Gilroy was brought in to do uncredited rewrites and uncredited directing. So, essentially, ang daming...
reshoots?
Talaga, hindi lang reshoots. Ang daming binago dun sa kwento. Yun.
Okay. So, baby niya pala talaga tong kwento ni Andor.
Exactly.
But this is not his story, right?
What do you mean not his story?
Hindi siya yung nagsulat ng story.
Yung microcosm of the story itself is attributed to John Knoll and Gary Whitta.
And also,
Yun.
I remember watching sa isa sa mga specials ng Andor is isa sila dun sa mga nakaisip na parang there's something missing in the story that needs to be told para ma-bridge mo yung gap dun sa episode 3 and episode 4.
Oo. Yung doon sa opening crawl ng episode 4,
Yes. Yung first real victory.
Rebel spaceships have won their first victory, tama ka, with the powerful Imperial Starfleet. So doon din sinabi na ninakaw nila yung plans for the Death Star. So parang
yan yung nawawalang nawawalang bit of plot and lore
So,
na hindi pa natin nakikita.
yun yung ginawa nila Tony Gilroy and company na talagang hinash out nila yung kwento with its solid writing, character development, and yung ang very real world portrayal of resistance. Pero let's start parang dissecting kumbaga the show itself. So
Alright.
of course the biggest thing about itong Andor and of course by extension Rogue One, pinakita niya yung beginning ng Rebel Alliance.
Yes.
Yes. Of course, let's start with our hero, Cassian Andor. Pinakita dun sa season 1, smuggler pa siya. Actually, medyo pagka Han Solo type nga siya.
Parang petty thief nga lang siya
Yan
diba?
pa. Oo. Na wala siyang pakialam sa mga nangyayari, paligid
Wala
niya.
siyang cause na pinaglalaban.
True.
He's just for himself, out for himself lang.
Oo, tapos yun nga, disconnect pa sila nung mom niya, si Marva, sa simula. Kasi hindi siya umuwi ng Ferrix ba?
Basta palipat-lipat siya eh.
Oo. Kasi hinahanap din niya
yung nawawala niyang sister.
Yung sister niya.
Oo.
Dapat. Pero yung search niya for his sister, nung hindi pa siya Cassian, Casa pa, tama yung pangalan niya, leads him to an event na essentially starts the ball rolling. Yan, kasi yung patayin niya doon sa parang dalawang security guard.
By accident.
Doon sa, actually hindi nga, parang accident pa nga eh.
Ganun ba?
Kasi pinatayin niya talaga eh, yung sa Morlana 1. Kasi nakaganon na eh, parang please don't na eh. So, binaril pa rin
So
niya.
meron din talaga siyang galit sa Empire.
Well, may galit siya sa puso niya, period. Yun.
He has a chip on his shoulder.
Talaga. Kaya yung pagiging self-serving niyang individual, sobrang gratifying, sobrang satisfying makita kung gaano ka fleshed out yung journey niya from being this person.
Checked out person.
For just himself. Na eventually, mapupunta tayo dun sa parang, okay, I'm hired to be this extra hand doon sa Aldhani heist. Hinanap siya ni Luthen, di ba?
Nasa radar na siya ni Luthen because nga, dun sa mga ninanakaw niya sa Empire ships.
Yes.
He's undetected.
Yon.
Hindi siya nahuhuli.
Oo, yung kung yung mga ninanakaw niya, binibenta niya ka na Bix. Kasi Bix, kausap si Luthen. Yon, kaya natama ka, nasa radar na ni Luthen si Cassian. Pero yun, eventually, yung kanyang first foray into the real rebellion is Aldhani, yung fantastic
ganda nun?
heist arc na kusan lumabas si Ebon.
Cousin.
Yes, si Ebon Moss Backrack. And actually, si Alex Lothar din.
Black Mirror.
Black Mirror, yes. Si Nemik. At saka si, ano yung pangalan nito ni cousin sa Si Skeen.
Yan.
Kazkin. Yun, na parang doon yung una nakita na parang, okay, merong, na siya microcosm na siya nung rebellion eh. Na these are separate people. Yung isa, alam ko doon, parang former Imperial Guard. Tapos, yun na nga, itong si Nemik, parang batang revolutionary.
Na sobrang idealistic. Meron siyang manifesto that will come into play later on.
Yes. Tapos ito nga si Skeen, na parang hired hand din siya.
Na he's doing it for money.
Kasama din si Andor. Si Cassian din.
He's also doing it for money.
Money din. Tapos and then si Vel.
At first,
Si Vel, si Cinta.
Cinta ni Vel.
Cinta, portrayed by Faye Marseille and Varda Sithu, respectively. So dun makikita yung yung parang involvement una ni Cassian in this bigger world. Kaya nakakatuwa na makita mo yung pag-participate niya sa heist na parang essentially siya yung nag-make sure na hindi mag-fail yung heist. Tapos all the way actually din dun sa nangyari sa Narkina, yung prison, na kasama niya dun si Kino Loy.
Portrayed by Andy Serkis.
Yun. So,
nakakatuwang makita si Andy Serkis with his face in the screen. Yun yung sabi ko, ang galing-galing ni Andy Serkis. Serkis, ba't kailangan niya pang magtago sa
Saan nga ba yung sabi nun? Sa honest trailer ba yun? Sinabi na parang, this man has earned the right to show his face. Parang ganon. And in Andor Season 1, my God.
Doon siya pinaka nag-shine.
He earns the right to show his face talaga.
Sabi ko nga sana, dapat na-nominate si Andy Serkis dito eh.
Yeah,
pero hindi sa motion cap.
Oo. Pero yung mga taong yun yun yung mga parang nag-spur on kay Cassian
Uy, nga pala, sa Narkina 5 din niya nakilala si Melshi.
Si Melshi din pa. Yung mga yun, yung mga taong yun Kaya makikita mo yung parang sobrang checked out ni Cassian. Tapos, along the way, itong mga experiences niya, talagang makita mo na nag-buy-in talaga siya eh. And then pagdating ng season 2, grabe naman yung niya. Alam mo yung parang siyang Space James Bond.
Ay, oo.
Diba?
Gusto ko yun. Space James Bond / Ethan Hunt.
Oo. Kung ano yung kailangan ng mission talaga. Andun siya.
Tsaka niya, sobrang ruthless na niya.
Oo.
Kasi napaka-laser focus na talaga nung mga ginagawa niya. No mercy and just don't get in my way or else.
Yes.
Ganon.
Oo. Talagang sobrang bought in na niya dun sa idea of rebellion as taught to him by Luthen. We'll get to him in a moment. Pero nakakatuwa na talagang makita mo yung growth as a leader, as someone very important to the rebellion ni Cassian.
From a reluctant follower to becoming a leader.
Ito, meron siyang katulad ng arc din sa Star Wars eh. Would you say na he's a better reluctant hero than Han Solo?
Oo. Kasi yun na lang sa things that he lost eh.
True.
Far outweighs even, for me lang, even the Skywalkers. He's lost more than the Skywalkers. Well, except for Anakin siguro. Because he's lost a lot of limbs.
He does not have the high ground. Talagang ako sa akin, sabi ko nga na parang sana ang face na ng Star Wars ngayon si Cassian talaga. Kasi he deserves it. Pero
Rogue One pa lang eh.
Diba? Pero walang Cassian kung walang Luthen Rael.
Luthen
Rael, portrayed by Stellan Skarsgård. By the way, sorry, I mean, if you didn't know pa, Cassian was portrayed by Diego Luna. Fantastic actor. And then Luthen Rael, portrayed by another fantastic actor.
Ang gagaling ng mga actors dito actually, lahat. Even the supporting cast.
Grabe
si Adria Arjona.
Yun pa.
Galing din niya.
We'll get to them mamaya. Sige, hold your horses, Cinegeeks. Pero ito, kay Luthen tayo magtuloy. Yung grabe yung may moment sa season 1 eh. Kasi pinakita ang una sa atin sa kanya is yung grabe niyang no-nonsense Stellan Skarsgård character.
Alam mo, ang ganda din nung juxtaposition nung Luthen Rael na spy, na rebel spy, and Luthen Rael na super posh art
Yun. Kaya yung dun sa ending
art
ng isang...
curator.
Yes, yung ending ng isang episode na yun na pinakita na pagkatapos niyang umalis ata ng... pagkatapos niyang iwan si Cassian sa Aldhani. Tapos umuwi na siya ng Coruscant. Pinakita na parang, okay, ship, go on autopilot. Tapos bigla siyang bukas siya ng parang mga konono niya. Tapos bigla siyang suot ng sing-sing, suot ng wig, tapos bigla siyang...
Super flamboyant na...
Parang, what? How?
Anyari ba that?
Pero...
Sino ka dyan, Vadette?
Pero grabe yung pagkakatama ka nun eh. Grabe yung pagja-juggle niya ng identities niya as both this super spy master.
And puppet master.
And itong alta sociedad na nagtatago in plain sight under the nose of the Empire. Grabe.
And with Clea, don't forget about Clea. Sobrang galing din niya. One of my favorite characters of the show. Especially towards the end of season 2, hands down.
Yes. Masabi ko lang about Luthen. Isa sa mga sobrang standout na mga moments niya in this show is the absolutely excellent speech na binigay niya while talking to one of his moles in the Imperial system.
Si Lonnie ba to?
Si Lonnie Young. Yung tinanong si Luthen ni Lonnie parang, what do you sacrifice? Kasi itong si may pamilya, ganyan. So,
pero
tamang question naman.
Luthen is in the shadows.
Yun. So, tinanong niya si Luthen parang, what do you sacrifice kung nasa shadows ka? Yung sinabi niya parang, calm, kindness, kinship, love. I've given up all chance at inner peace. Parang, oh my God.
Grabe yung mga linyahan.
Star Wars ba to? Is this Star Wars? Is this Star Wars?
Parang Shakespeare na yung level ng pagiging matalinghaga and sobrang rich nung script.
Ito pa yung pinaka sinabi niya to, and this is gonna pay off later. Sinabi niya na, I burn my life to make a sunrise that I know I'll never see.
Sakit.
Tony Gilroy, my God, ano yung script mo? Binabasa ko pa nga lang yung monologue, parang akong nag-goosebumps na ako.
Diba? Parang, actually, just you repeating it now, parang, alam mo yung natitiri-eyed ako. Knowing what happens to him, na talagang, grabe, sobrang heartbreaking talaga. A moment of silence for Luthen
Rail. Pero grabe yung pragmatism niya. Grabe yung kanyang talagang hard-nosed determination.
And yung resolve niya.
Talagang
commitment to the cause. Na talagang siya yung talagang martyr for the cause.
At saka ultimong, alam mo yung the death, quote-unquote, of his soul will bring about
the sunrise
that
for he'll never see.
The galaxy. Talagang pinaglalaban niya. And dito sa season 2, oh my God, talagang grabe yung hindi ko naman sabihin na hindi siya masyadong central kasi ang dami pa rin niya. Sobrang important pa rin niya eh. Pero siguro mas less yung screen time niya than season 1.
Oo, kasi napagalaw na niya, gumagalaw na lahat ng networks niya for him.
Pero yun talagang siya pa rin kung kailangan niya na makipag-interface directly, ginagawa pa rin niya.
Yung grift niya, di ba?
Still
very important.
Siya yung nakaalam kung ano yung Death Star. Nung sinabi ni Donnie. Tapos eto sige, we're just gonna, spoil this. Talagang deep dive lang talaga tayo.
Yes.
Yung gusto ko yung final showdown nila ni Ded Ramiro. Yung
grabe.
tinanong siya ni Ded na parang,
gusto ko yung moment na yun.
parang essentially tinanong siya ni Ded na parang, alin dito yung mga totoo?
Alin mo yung mga fake dito?
Alin yung mga fake dito? Tapos sabi niya biglang, as of the moment, there are only 2 items in this shop of questionable provenance. Parang, oh my God! Again,
Shady.
Tony Gilroy.
The shade.
Grabe yung, God. Star Wars. It's so hard to believe na we get God-tier writing in Star Wars.
We're blessed with the writing of Tony Gilroy.
Oo.
Sobrang satisfying ng storytelling niya.
And speaking of being blessed with God-tier writing, we have to move on to the next character blessed with God-tier writing, which is Mon Mothma. Played by Genevieve O'Reilly.
Sobrang daming layers na inad nila sa character ni Mon Mothma. From her first appearance sa Rogue One.
Actually, hindi. Yung first appearance pa niya, yung Return of the Jedi pa.
Oo,
all the way back in 1983. Madam Mission Briefer. Parang,
pero si Genevieve O'Reilly na, di ba yun?
Hindi na.
Okay. Pero si Genevieve O'Reilly, sa prequel.
Sa prequels pa, alam ko, may scene siya dapat sa episode 3. Pero kinat siya. Kasi parang hindi na wieldy yung pacing nung scene eh. Pero lalabas siya dapat doon.
Tagal na rin pala niya sa Star Wars universe.
Yes, first portrayed by Caroline Blakiston. Sana na-pronounce ko ng tama yun. Caroline Blackiston. Yun, siya yung nagbigay ng mission briefing nung bago umatake yung mga rebels sa Death Star 2.
Okay.
Sa Return of the Jedi. So parang tayo, nung pinapanood natin, rebel. Pero parang at the back of my mind, parang, sino ka?
Bigla na lang siyang sumulpot,
sumulpot. Ba't hindi si Leia ulit yung nag-brief or is a trap?
Si Admiral Akbar.
Ba't di na lang si Admiral Akbar yung nag-give ng briefing, di ba? Sino itong si Mon Mothma? So, yun nga, nakakatuwa na nakita natin siya ulit sa Rogue One na actually yung same na damit niya sa Return of the Jedi.
Diba?
Same itsura basically. And then yun na nga, ito yung grabe yung sobrang beautiful yung pagkaka-develop and yung pagkakapakita nung struggle niya maintaining her place in the imperial bureaucracy.
Yung politics. Talagang siya talaga yung nagbuno nun.
Grabe yung pagkaka-in-one nung kwento. Meron tayo yung kay Cassian, yung boots on the ground.
Yes.
Tapos meron tayong kay Luthen, yung mastermind.
Architect of the rebellion in the shadows.
In the shadows. Tapos, of course, hindi nakakalimutan yung politics kung paano na-amass yung Rebel Alliance.
And kung paano din na finance.
Yun pa.
Kasi ang dami ring sacrifices ni Mon Mothma just to finance the rebellion. Even
pero,
her daughter. Binenta niya. Literal.
True. Para lang ma-maintain yung cover. And again, yun na nga, yung pera for the rebellion. maging secure. I mean, even that concern of hers, yung funding for the rebellion, is a reason why some people close to her end up losing their lives.
Just because they have questionable motives.
True.
Hindi pa nga sure kung gagawin nila yon.
Yes.
Diba? Si Take Olma.
Na parang, pero napraning lang si Luthen Rail. Parang, nope, have to get rid of him.
Pero kasi, valid siya kasi nga, they have so much to lose.
Yes.
Kapag ka nagkamali, or everything is just depending on this one person's decision to blab or not.
Yeah.
Parang it's too much of a risk.
Kaya yung grabe na lang yung pagkaka-handle niya nung talagang tricky politics, yung pag-navigate niya. Even yung how she reacts to the Gorman massacre in season 2.
Grabe yung Gorman massacre.
Ay, Diyos ko,
sobrang heartbreaking nun.
A moment of silence for the people of Gore. Talagang...
Pero alam mo ba, isa yun sa mga highest rated episodes on IMDb.
Yes.
Of all time.
Actually,
of all shows.
Ito, masabi ko lang, yung last 6 episodes ng Andor Season 2, at least 9.5.
Last 6?
Oo.
Kalahati nung season?
Kalahati ng season. Masabi ko lang yung last na stretch of episodes na ganun kahaba, na parang ganun kaganda at ganun kataas yung estimation, for me, okay, we're gonna go to another galaxy. Makikapit-bahay tayo.
Okay.
Naalala mo ba yung, hindi ko alam kung season 5 or 6 siya, ng Star Trek Deep Space Nine.
Sabi ko na nga ba yung sabihin mo
yung opening arc ng Dominion War.
Yes,
yun,
yes.
Yung mula sa Call to Arms hanggang sa Siege of AR-55. Oh my God!
Grabe.
Parang paganda yung episode.
Actually, yung pangalang In the Pale Moonlight
Wait, Star Wars ang pinag-uusapan natin ngayon dito.
Okay, pero para sa mga Trekkie dyan, live long and prosper.
Yes, live long and prosper everyone. Pero yun, ganun siya ka-comparable para sa akin. Na yung walang tapon doon sa last 6 episodes.
Tsaka yung stakes,
diba?
Sobrang grabe.
Pataas. Diyos ko, Mario.
Feeling ko talaga, alam mo yung sobra ko nang emotionally invested na pagkatapos doon para akong napagod din sa war.
True. Ay, nako. I mean, speaking of yung nangyari dun sa Gore, we have to talk about, of course, the perpetrators. So, for every story...
The collaborators.
Yes, may every story na merong mga heroes. Of course, we have to talk about the villains. And dito, sa Andor, pinakita na the Empire isn't just this group of mustache-twirling mga
villainous na cartoonish na
talagang pinakita dito kung gaano kalala yung banality of evil.
Kung gaano na na-corrupt ng Empire yung mga simpleng tao.
True. Kasi grabe yung...
They really believe na tama sila eh.
True. Ito, let's start with yung the Imperial entity at the center of Andor, which is the ISB or the Imperial Security Bureau. Na ang ating entrada si Ded Ramiro.
Si Cyril Karn pa muna. Hindi pa ba siya ISB nun?
Hindi pa siya ISB nun. Sa season 2 lang siya naging ISB. Actually, hindi pa nga siya ISB talaga. Ano lang siya? Galamay lang siya ni Dedra.
Consultant
lang siya. Pero yun again, Ded Ramiro portrayed fantastically by Denise Gough.
I have never seen such an excellent resting B-face. Wala talagang grabe yung...
a scarier resting B-face
nung
kanya.
Parang yun yung golden standard ko. Grabe. When it comes to resting B-face.
Pero yung portrayal dito, nitong mga entities, itong mga taong to, like Dedra, na yung sobrang wala lang sa kanila, nung authoritarianism na ini-espouse nila, yung grabe yung kasi season 1 pa lang, yung pinag-uusapan nila na parang, okay, so we have to go to this planet, we have to round up the population kasi yung Empire operations natin hindi pwede mantala. I mean, parang grabe.
And they're just standing on this very valuable mineral.
Yun.
And you just have to get them out of the way.
Just do whatever you can. Just get them out there.
Para ka lang nagwi-weed ng grass.
Sobrang chilling nung wala lang sa kanila.
Alam mo
yung kasamaan na ginagawa nila.
Alam mo kung nung naalala ko kay Dedra tsaka kay Cyril, pagdating dun sa mga ideology na you just mentioned, para siyang yung zone of interest.
Yes.
yung mga Nazi collaborators na
Yes.
wala lang sa kanila yung value of life eh. Kasi hindi tao yung tingin nila dun sa mga victims.
True. Yes.
They're just a nuisance, ganon.
Thank you so much for bringing that up. If you haven't seen Zone of Interest, it's one of the most important films of the last decade. Talagang
tackling
the banality of
the banality of evil.
Kasi kung hindi niyo pa alam kung ano yung Zone of Interest, it focuses on the family life of the commandant of the Auschwitz concentration camp, si Rudolf Hess.
Tapos nandun lang sila nakatira sa labas ng Auschwitz.
Tapos grabe yung mga pinoproblema nila sa araw-araw na parang, ay, Han, kailangan akong i-assign dun sa bagong sa ibang lugar eh. Parang, i-assign ka dun. Paano tong bahay natin? Ako yung nag-aayos ng bahay na to. All while Auschwitz is behind them.
Tapos alam mo yung parang pinoproblema niya lang yung malalagyan ng ash yung mga halaman niya. Yung mga pinaplant niya ng mga flowers.
And we know what that ash is. Pero,
grabe talaga yun.
Dito yung talagang, tas lalo na sa season 2, pinakita na parang yung pinagplanuhan nila na i-displace yung population ng Gorman. Na yung Gorman population of Gore. Sorry, Gore pala yung pangalan ng planet. Nalilito ako minsan Pero yung talagang napaka-flippant nilang sabihin na, ay, may kailangan tayo dun sa underground Tapos paano yung population? Kinabala. Basta tanggalin nyo lang yung mga tao. Ganun, nakakakilabot. And, I mean, I don't want to get into detail. Kasi, I mean, we are a movie podcast and we're talking about this because the parallels are very eerie, scary even. Pero, let's just say na that's happening in real life.
Right even now. Here in the Philippines, alam mo yung kung paano nila i-displace yung mga
katutubo,
indigenous people para lang makuha yung mga natural resources that they live on, yung nasa lupa nila.
Grabe.
Diba? Even, I mean, eliminate them if they're in the way. Parang ganun. Napaka-banal talaga.
Ito, masabi ko lang let's just wrap up itong section on the Empire kasi ako medyo parang masabi ko lang din. For the longest time, as a Star Wars fan, okay? Of course, hindi ko napanood yung original na labas nun. 1997 ko na lang siya napanood yung special edition. And by that time, Star Wars has been around for about 20 years. So, yung kanyang pop culture footprint, sobrang talagang sementado na.
Okay.
Kaya, iconography was king for Star Wars. So, syempre, yung mukha ni Darth Vader, yung mukha ng Stormtrooper, yung mga ganun.
Icons na talaga.
Icons na siya. So, parang, nung lumalaki ako, parang, wow, wala sa akin.
You just associate it with a brand.
With Star Wars.
Yes.
So, parang wala lang sa akin na parang magsuot akong t-shirt ng Darth Vader or ng Stormtrooper. Yung ganun kasi, I mean, I have to admit it as well. The design of the Stormtrooper and the Darth Vader helmet is cool. Very cool.
And medyo na rin tayo, na-condition na rin tayo ng society and pop culture to think na these are cool icons.
Yes. Kaya walang problema sa akin isuot siya. And I think even one time pa nga, niregaluhan mo ko ng sombrero na yung parang outline ng Stormtrooper helmet.
Ikaw din, binigyan mo din ako ng t-shirt na Stormtrooper and when yun, wala lang sa atin.
Pero ngayon, para sa akin, this goes on the internet so this is forever. Parang I don't feel comfortable wearing Imperial iconography anymore after watching Andor Season 2. Because after seeing how evil, how casually evil, and the G word, the Empire is. Na parang, and you see the parallels. I mean, I trust the Cine Geeks to know who they are. I trust your intelligence to put 2 and 2 together, to read between the lines. You know who the Empire is in the world right now. Kaya yung parang wearing Imperial iconography, in my opinion is tantamount to parang giving the thumbs up to oppression everywhere. Yan. Ikaw?
Mas dito ko talaga na-realize, kahit pa lang dun sa Rogue One yung, alam yung dulo, last 5 minutes yata ng movie, na merong unaliving spree si Darth Vader dun sa hinahabol niya na Death Star plans. Alam mo yung, dun ko na-realize how parang no regard for human life si Darth Vader to the point na parang, wait, parang I have never seen Darth Vader this evil before.
Ito lang, sige, yung dun sa Rogue One, sa dulo ng Rogue One, di ba nakita natin na ganun yung ginawa ni Darth Vader. I remember back in 2016, after us watching it, na ang reaction natin was parang, oh my God. ngayon lang natin nakitang badass si Darth Vader. Yun pa yung reaction natin, parang, wow, hindi lang mascot. Si Darth Vader na. Talagang ruthless na siya. And we thought nothing of it. Kasi yun na nga, alam na natin na parang, it's this evil villain, classic, whatever, ganyan. Pero bang, after watching Andor Season 1 and 2, parang manawala yung, kasi pinanood natin yung Rogue One din immediately after Season 2.
Yes.
Yan. By the way, sobrang recommended na gawin yun.
Obligatory watch. I think mangangati din yung utak nyo pag di nyo pinanood yung Rogue One after the last episode.
Yung yung over 2 hours na post-credit scene ng Andor Season 2.
Tama.
Rogue One. Yan. Pero yung pinanood natin yung Rogue One, yung last 5 minutes, mas doon na ako nakatutok doon sa mga rebels trying to get the plans out of Darth Vader's grasp. Parang mas ako na parang, sige, go! Hindi na yung parang, nagagaganon si Darth Vader.
Or parang,
Darth Vader,
cool!
Combo!
Parang, ang lupit.
Ang lupit ni Darth Vader. Hindi, parang ako na
parang, or nakakatakot lang siya.
Parang ngayon na parang, hindi, go! Sige, yun, konti na lang. Parang, buti na iabot pa. Yung ganun
Tsaka, lahat ng sacrifices nila, the fallen heroes, all nakasalalay dun sa Death Star plans na yon, lahat ng nasacrifice. Tapos gaganon lang ni Darth Vader yung mga tao, yung pinapasan, alam mo yon, parang they pay for such a big price. Yes.
Talagang, if anything, kasing laking hero nung Rogue One squad, yung 10 or 12 or so na mga rebel soldiers
na nagpasa-pasa nung Death Star plans na yon.
Talagang, grabe. Eto, maano ko lang yung Andor and Rogue One, in my opinion, are the best Star Wars properties since 4, 5, and 6. Talaga. And the biggest thing about that is kasi talagang dito niya finlesh out yung battle for freedom versus oppression. Yung talagang pinakita niya na there are these people who are seemingly parang of different walks of life, different goals, different parang worldviews.
Yes.
Coming together for a collective goal.
Lahat kayo merong hiwa-hiwalay na agenda sa umpisa. Pero once you rally and believe in one cause, talagang you will sacrifice everything, you will risk everything, and you're willing to lose everything for the cause. Diba nga, nakita natin yung Yavin before the leadership. Diba, nakita natin how they were fighting.
At saka yung pa lang, sa season 1 pa lang, yung talagang ayaw makipag-collaborate ni Saw Gerrera.
Kahit yun na lang Kasi part talaga ng rebellion yun. Kanya-kanya sila ng pinaglalaban.
Masabi ko lang sorry, sa season 2. Yung sinabihan yung kinakausap ni Mon, si Saw. Sabi ni Saw, you don't know where I am. Tapos si Mon naman,
gaya mo.
So, we know you're on Jeddah. Para siyang, no, you don't know where I am.
Pikachu face. Kaka-rugby mo yan
Yung pala, isa pa yun. Gabi yun. Alam mo yung mga ganun. I mean, of course, we don't condone substance abuse. Hell no. Pero yung nakakatawa kasi, makita mo na yung, di ba sa Rogue One, akala mo, oxygen tank yun.
Akala ko nga para siyang yung sa Mad Max na kailangan niya ng oxygen kasi parang yung the atmosphere in that planet is super polluted na. Ganon.
Pero dito sa season 2 ng Andor, malaman natin, gasp lang pala. Rhydonium, to be specific. Ang tanong sabi niyo, sabi ni Saw,
gayahin mo nga.
Rhydo, my sister. Sabay, kaya tuloy nandun sa dulo sa Rogue One, baka siyang may siya biglang akala mo, ay, oxygen, hindi pala. Gas pala. Sumisingot siya ng LPG. Ay, Saw Gerrera. Forever in our hearts. Kaya, yun sobrang, it's a very mesmerizing piece of art. I'm gonna go say it. It's art. Andor Season 1, Andor Season 2, and Rogue One. Talaga. And of course, as with anything artful, we have to discuss how fantastically it was made.
Oh my God. Yung first 3 episodes pa lang, sabi ko, I can't get over how beautiful the costume design is. Grabe, sobrang ganda ng mga damit nila. As in, yung wedding, tapos yung mga damit ni, yung
yung sa season 2 na first 3. Oh, yes.
first 3 episodes of season 2, yung wedding sa
Chandrila wedding.
Chandrila.
Yes.
Tsaka yung damit ng mga bisita, as in, grabe. Yung mga damit ni Mon Mothma, sobrang, wow.
Ang ganda nung mix between, ano sinabi doon, parang may pagka-Japanese kimono, na may pagka-old, parang medieval, Greek, tapos parang may King Arthurian pa na design. Grabe na paghalo-halo nila lahat yun.
Wow,
Ang galing.
sobrang creative talaga.
Ay, nako.
And also, yung set design din.
Oh my gosh. I mean,
sobrang, wow, ang ganda nung, napaka-unique nung architecture,
yes.
nung pagkaka-build nung production design na you can actually see that it's real.
Yes, even yung set sa Chandrila ng wedding, sabi ni Ange sa season 2, kahit lang Ferrix yung lived-in quality, this has something to do with yung practicality of everything. Ito, sobrang laking bone to pick netong topic na to with the Star Wars fan base at large.
Yes,
na yung tipong practical effects versus CGI. Kasi yung 4, 5, 6, syempre, ano yun? Practical yun. 80s pa yun Pero nung ginawa ni George Lucas yung prequels,
natuwa
masyado. May ito,
over naman.
Yung behind the scenes documentary ng episode 1, yung pangalan niya The Beginning, it's in YouTube, look for it, it's fantastic. Pinakita doon na nagbe-previs sila, yung lahat ng mga storyboards.
Yes.
Itong si George Lucas, alam mo yung may kulay siya, na sabi niya, ito yung kulay na to pag practical. As itong kulay na to kapag CGI. Kaya makita mo doon sa lahat ng storyboard, halos lahat puro CGI. Talagang parang, looking mo parang, George Lucas, I love you. Pero why? Ano nangyari doon sa practicality?
He went overboard nga. Masyado siyang natuwa.
Pero kasi, ito din naman yon. Doing practical effects for practical effects' sake is also an empty and hollow thing.
True.
Case in point, the sequel trilogy. Yun naman ang bentahin naman nila doon. Alam mo yung, if I had a nickel, every time J.J. Abrams said, we have practical effects. Milyonaryo na tayo. Diyos ko, Maria
Nakalimutan niya na yung story. Kasi puro practical effects naman yung focus niya.
Kita niyo yun, di ba? Kita niyo yung kausap ni Rey doon sa
yan.
Totoo yun. Yung 1/4 portion. Okay, pakialam namin kung practical yun. Maswerte siya. Kasi maganda yung kwento. Ang tama ka, appreciated siya na may ganun kasi. Pero alam mo nung pagdating ng Rise of Skywalker, sige, practical. Yung kwento naman, hindi na practical.
Yun lang.
The Sith sword, anyone? Oh, Jesus Christ. Wag na nating paalanan yan.
Okay.
Pero, grabe yung pagkakaiba-iba ng design ng worlds.
Yes.
May
kahit yung Gorman din,
yung
diba?
Gore, yung Yavin 4, yung
Coruscant. Ang ganda ng Coruscant. Sobrang ganda nung yung Senate. Ang ganda na, may mesmerize ako dun sa architecture. It's a real place, di ba?
It's in Spain. Yes, yung parang yung arts and science building nila in Spain.
Ang ganda.
Buti nakahanap sila ng ganun. Parang pag ganun.
Oo.
Ang ganda.
Parang siyang DNA building.
True. And of course, yung us, long-time Star Wars fans, we've wanted to know what the inside of the Senate building looks like. Hindi yung inside nung Senate chamber kasi pinakita na sa prequels yun Pero yung parang ano yung mukha nung Senate halls, kumbaga. Ang ganda din ng pagkaka-design dito. Nakakatawa.
Very stadium pala yung dating niya, no?
True.
Yung pagka-circular.
And even the way that the different races were characterized. Yung mga gore, I love that they chose to parang parallel the French. Doon sa yung mga gore.
Even their language nga sounds a little bit French.
Ano mo ba?
Tapos yung fashion sensibilities
yun pa,
nila.
na fashion capital siya of the galaxy.
Paris,
France,
parang gano'n.
Diba? Tapos pinakita dun sa yung parang, ang tawag nila dun, disassembled after every 3 episode stretch, na yung language ng mga gore, although it sounds French, it's a totally made up language that was taught to these French actors. Kaya ang sabi nila doon, yung sabi ng actor nung kay Rylan, ba yun? Yung head nung Gorman Front. Yun. Ang sinabi nila na parang dahil natutunan na nila yung gore language. Nag-uusap na sila ng gore in between takes. Kasi malamig siya sa French. Yung ganung attention to detail, to making the world so lived in.
And so close to reality. Kaya it doesn't feel so sci-fi.
Kaya tuloy, the world building wouldn't be enough if the cinematography was parang talagang God tier din sa palabas na to.
Sobrang.
Oh my gosh.
Alam mo yun, I keep imagining if we see this in the big screen.
Oo.
Alam mo yung IMAX? Alam mo yung sobrang ganda sigurong tingnan. Sobrang spa for the eyes.
Disney, baka naman. Next year's 10-year anniversary ng Rogue One.
Oh.
May rumblings. Actually, this came from the man himself, Tony Gilroy, na the last 3 episodes, so yung last arc ng Rogue One, ng Andor Season 2, i-edit daw into a movie, parang streamlining it into a movie. Kasi ang balak daw is, ipapalabas yon yung movie edit niya, back-to-back with Rogue One. Disney.
Sana sa Pilipinas meron din.
Disney, baka naman. Disney.
Oh. Kasi yung buzz din kasi, since nga sobrang highest rated siya sa IMDb ngayon. I mean, people would go out to watch it in the big screen.
It's true. I mean, the visuals, the world, the cinematography isn't enough if the music isn't fantastic as well.
Oh my God, speaking of music, sobrang gusto ko yung Galaxy Far Far Away EDM dun sa party.
Yung sa party, yung mental breakdown
ni Mon Mothma.
Dance rave ni Mon Mothma.
Grabe yun.
By the way,
both mesmerizing and emotional, heartbreaking, but also party.
Grabe yung parang sobrang napaka-millennial. I'm breaking down in the club. Yes,
habang tears flowing down your
habang nagkaganon tayo, umiiyak tayo ganyan. Yes, Mon. Preach. By the way, yung sinasayaw nila doon sa party, sa wedding ng anak ni Mon, is the same music playing doon sa Niamos, yung hinuli si Cassian bago siya napunta sa Narkina.
Oh.
Kaya Niamos, kasi yun yung pangalan ng lugar, di ba?
Oo.
Yun.
Wow,
so,
trivia.
Grabe yung parallels niya na parang Cassian was hearing that music as he was being summarily arrested for nothing. And then Mon is hearing this music as she is breaking down, fearing that the rebellion is dead.
Ang galing.
The writing,
talaga.
my God, the writing is so fantastic.
And also, speaking of Narkina 5, gusto ko yung naging callback niya dun sa very end of the show.
Yeah.
Sobrang satisfying nung end na natapos pa rin siya. And we did not forget about Narkina 5.
May nakita pala ako kanina meme. Yun, di ba, sabihin na natin.
Si Dedra.
Si Dedra, di ba, nahuli siya.
Yun yung ending niya.
Kasi nahuli pa siya, hindi dahil masama siyang tao. Nahuli siya kasi siya yung sa email niya nang galing na may nag-leak nung Death Star plans. Parang yung ngayon na, yung sa States, yung may naging controversy na yung Department of Defense nila, merong na-reveal na war plans through a group chat na unsecure.
Baka Viber.
Ang pangalan nung app Signal. Actually, tinanong nga si Tony Gilroy nung nangyari. Parang, wait, paano nyo na nalaman yun? Sabi niya, I wrote this a year before this came out. Yeah.
Yun din yung kay Cyril din, yung ending niya.
Ay, yun, nabanggit mo pala si Cyril. Siya yung embodiment of people who enable evil by just saying na parang, hey, they're just doing their job. Or parang siyang, for the sake of peace and order. Okay, masyado tayong
masyado
getting
close to home.
Yun na lang. Ganun na lang yung mga ganun.
Pero yung mental gymnastics niya in trying to justify everything that he does.
Yeah.
And then, up until the very end, nung last showdown na nila, nung nag-face off na sila ni Andor, parang in a split second, parang feeling ko na question niya lahat ng ginagawa niya. Dun sa yung gore.
Yung umiikot na yung camera sa kanya habang yung nangyayari sa gore.
Yung moment of hesitation niya.
Yeah. Ay, grabe tong palabas na to. And, yeah, sinabi nga natin, after watching Andor Season 2, you have to go to Rogue One kaagad.
And alam mo ba, nabasa ko pala, Rogue One is the #1 movie on Disney Plus right now.
Yeah! Hell yes!
Talagang obligatory watch siya after episode 12.
Tama ka, yun. 2 oras na post-credits scene. Ay, nako. Pero, ito yung masabi ko lang. I love na Andor finally shows na this battle for the soul of the galaxy goes beyond Jedi and Sith.
Yes. It's really about the people.
Yan.
It's not just about the fight of the Skywalkers then.
Kasi, so, aminin ko na nga, nakakaumay na yung mga Skywalker. Kaya nga nakakatuwa din na may Mandalorian tayo, may Din Djarin tayo, may Grogu. Pero even then, we're getting
parang
so
nag-step
dangerously
away na din sila no? Lumalayo na talaga ang Star Wars sa Skywalker saga.
Pero andun pa rin tayo sa Jedi eh.
Well.
Yun lang yung sa akin na parang, of course, I love the Jedi and yung Sith dynamic, yung gano'n, Battle of Good and Evil. Pero yung tama yung human toll or even the citizens of the galaxy, how does this fight against evil affect them?
Tsaka yung dichotomy is really something that's too basic na eh. Para sa worldview natin nowadays, di ba?
So,
parang wala nang ganong absolutes eh. And it's more intriguing to actually watch flawed people, not purely good or purely evil. Parang they do things for reasons, di ba?
Yes. Kaya we can't recommend these shows and movie enough. I mean, if we have to give a rating to it, sige, review na natin to.
A+.
My God.
A++.
Yung season 1, A+. Yung season 2, A++. Tapos yung Rogue One, A+++.
And by the way, ma-share ko lang pala, when we watched Rogue One, grabe yung impact niya sa akin. It actually inspired me to start a podcast back then. And then hindi ko siya kinalimutan hanggang sa we had the perfect timing and opportunity to actually start the podcast.
Yes.
Pero dun na-plant yung seed ng Cinegeeks.
The podcast plans.
Actually.
Ay, nako. So, yeah. Thank you, Rogue One, for the Cinegeeks podcast.
So, Cinegeeks, what did you think of Season 1 and 2 of Andor and Rogue One? Or if you haven't seen it yet, what's your favorite Star Wars movie or TV show? Yan. Comment below and let us know.
Para sa akin, if you haven't seen it yet, ang ano ko dun is, why? Why have you not seen it yet? Just kumaryoso.
Actually.
See it now. See it now.
See it now.
Yes. So, that's it for the Cinegeeks podcast. Again, this is Roy.
And Angela.
And we'll see you in the next one.